Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakar Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Hey, brothers, I recently saw this clip with Herschel Walker, and many of you probably know if you are into sports, or maybe you're not into sports. Many of you might know Herschel Walker from his relatively recent debut in MMA. But I want to pull up who Herschel Walker is before I play the clip that he said, right? So, of course, I wanted to Google who is Herschel Walker, right? And let's go down to some brief information. Right now it has Herschel Walker listed as an American politician. But when we go to info here, it says Herschel Walker, born March 3rd, 1962, an American politician and former football running back who played for the NFL, National Football League, for 12 seasons. He is a Republican nominee in the 2022 United States Senate election in Georgia, right? Let's come down. Let's get a little bit more information about Herschel Walker, right? So what I want to do is come down to where it says, how did Herschel Walker make his money? Because it gives a few more details about him. I really don't care how much money he made, but I just want to give some context on who he is. Herschel Walker is a former professional football player and mixed martial artist who has a net worth of $10 million. During his NFL career, Herschel played for the Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings, Philadelphia Eagles, and New York Giants, right? As I mentioned, he also in MMA, he did a little bit of that too as well, but now he's into politics, right? So let's go to what he said that really caught my attention and provoked this lesson. Let me come here to a video clip that I have saved of what he said. Let's jump right into it.
You're not racist unless you're 185 years old in today's world. You have to be 185 years old.
All right, so let me pause it right there. So he said, you're not a racist unless you're 185 years old in today's world, right? Let's get right back to it.
You're not racist today. You don't have television, you have the internet to show you that we all the same.
As you can see, it says Herschel Walker says racism does not exist today. All right, so just reading those two statements alone, those few quotes alone, Herschel Walker doesn't know what time we're living in and what the hell's going on. Let's get back to this video real quick.
So somebody calling you a racist, don't worry about it.
All right, so we came out of that, right? So let's jump right into the lesson. So, because those of us in the knowledge and the truth, we know that according to scriptures, right? Deuteronomy 28:68 to be exact. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way thereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again, right? That's talking about physical Egypt, but we know that we are in spiritual Egypt, right? And there ye shall be sold to your enemies, right? So I'm gonna pause right there to add context. We were sold to people that hate us, right? Because your enemies in this particular scripture here are people who hate you, right? Let's come out of this. How do we know? Precept must be upon precept, right? Psalms 83, and we're going to get to the point here. Psalms 83 is always a good outline of our enemies and the nations that hate us. Let's get into this scripture very quickly here, right? Keep not silent, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For, lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consult against thy holy ones. Who is the Lord's people? Us, the house of Israel. Who is the holy ones? Us, also the 12 tribes, aka the house of Israel and or the hidden ones, right? Verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So, Mr. Herschel Walker, right? Even the psalmist wrote, thine enemies make a tumult against us. That means they plan crafty schemes against us, right? To execute us, for taking us out. And as we all know, this is an anchor scripture for us in the knowledge and the truth. Verses 6, 7, 8, 9. It all breaks down who our enemies are, right? And if we all notice, it starts with the tabernacles of Edom, meaning the Edomites, the Ishmaelites, Moab, right? And the Hagarenes, the Hagarenes, okay? But you can go and read through that. And it's just beautiful how this Psalms end, right? Okay? Verse 17. Let me jump down to 6. It's all good. The whole chapter's good, right? But look how he finishes this. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Verse 16. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Let them be confounded in trouble forever. Right? Yea, let them be put to shame and perish. Why? Because they are the enemies of the house of Israel. Verse 18, that men may know that though those name alone is Yahweh, art the most high over all the earth. Right? Let me come out of this. Let me go to Ezekiel, verse 35 and 5. Right? Mr. Herschel Walker said, you're not a racist. What does the scripture says, right? That there's no racism. Racism doesn't exist, right? But what does Ezekiel 35 and 5 say? Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, and in the time that their iniquity had an end. What does it say here? It says a perpetual hatred. The New King James Version says an ancient hatred. That means a continuous hatred and a hatred from old, man. Okay? Herschel Walker, get that in your mind, man. Okay? It's just so silly when he said that, man. It's just ridiculous. Let me go to Ezekiel chapter 25, verse 15. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Because the Philistines acted in vengeance and took revenge with malice in their hearts, and with an ancient hostility sought to destroy Judah. Again, ancient hostility. Right? The other scripture we read, what did it say? Perpetual hatred. Never ending. What does perpetual mean? That means it goes on forever. It's meant to be a quick lesson here. That's why in the book of Luke, this is how you know salvation is only for the house of Israel, the elect. Well, for all of Israel eventually, but right now it's for the elect. Luke chapter 1, verse 71. That this is what we're saved from. This is what real salvation is. That we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all those that hate us. Right? Read it again. Luke chapter 1, verse 71. That we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us. Who hates us? Right? Let's go back to Psalm chapter 83 on down. Okay? That's who hate us. Right? Verses 6 on down. Read on down. That's who hate us. But Psalms chapter 83 outlines it all. Right? If you still don't think the other nations hate us, man, you don't have to read those precepts. How do you get around Revelation chapter 11, verse 12? They heard a voice, right, from heaven saying to them, who's the them? The elect of the house of Israel. Come up here. Up where? Up here meaning into a chariot, right? To be saved, to be redeemed from the earth. And they went up to heaven in a cloud, aka chariot, while their enemies looked on. Who are the enemies? The other nations, right? We're going to be saved right before their eyes. We're going to be redeemed right before their eyes. However, this lesson was not about being redeemed right before their eyes. This lesson was to prove to you that there are still racists and racism on the earth, brothers. Right? Those of us in the knowledge, we already know this. But Herschel Walker doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just a talking head, man. Shalom.